Hello, my name is Edward George. I live at 216 10th Street in St. Augustine Beach. I'm running for City Commission St. Augustine Beach. I have a master's degree in engineering from the University of Florida. My degree is in material science. I'm a metallurgist and a forensic scientist and engineer. I'm running for the seat because there are for many reasons, but one of the things is that we're going to be hiring, the city will be hiring a new public works director who will be an engineer. And there are some very important engineering decisions that are going to be made, and that's one of the things that I can bring, is that as my degree is in material science, and that covers many different materials, and I've been involved in everything from construction failures to metallurgical failures, but I'm an expert witness in product liability cases where we have to argue our opinion, and that's kind of transfers over to what goes on at the city. You have to have if you have an opinion about something, you have to argue that and try to convince your fellow commissioners that that's a good thing, and that's how the votes happen. I was on the commission for 8 years. I was the mayor, and I wanted to continue because I feel like there's a need for my presence there.
Okay. Well, thank you. Let's start with what softball question. What do you see as the big issues?
Well, right now, obviously, the very important issue is the police department. The way that's been handled, I think, could have been better. I think that there's an opportunity to fix some of the things. The one thing that's important is, we had some management problems. Those will hopefully be fixed with the addition of a new police chief. That chief should be given the opportunity to make the decision based on the statistics of how many officers need to be at the beach. We had 15 officers and everyone was happy. We had a management problem, and now it looks like this current commission wants to change that number to a lower number. Meanwhile, the numbers that we're getting from the TDC are the tourist trade is increasing by 12%. We have two very large pieces of property that hopefully will be developed, especially the Marriott, which is now a sand lot, that they keep telling us that that's going to be developed. If that's the case, we're going to have a lot more tourist traffic. Speaking of traffic, the traffic is an issue, and it's going to continue to be an issue. I don't know if you guys have been to Beach Blast Off, and that's been handled very well. But the numbers are increasing. Even if you just take that 12% number, at some point we're going to have to look at alternatives to what we're doing now, and that hasn't really been brought up specifically. But I think with our new public works director and a new police chief, that needs to be addressed. Another issue is accountability. I think one of the problems, and I have to take some responsibility, is that the commission wasn't aware of some of the things that were going on in the police department as far as policies and procedures. And that's true also in the city manager's office. Melissa Burns is now working in the city manager's office on updating the policies, and that needs to be implemented. And I think in the past I was instrumental in implementing certain oversights, such as I was the first person to implement certain things under staff reports. One of the things is we have checks go out every month, so the checks need to be reviewed. Well, we were reviewing those now, but every commissioner gets those, the balance sheet, and you can ask, well, what is this for? And that's what I would do. And after 2 or 3 months, you get to know, oh, I know what that's for, but then you'll see something, well, what is this for? These checks are going out. The purchasing policies need to be strict and implemented. So that the general thing is that it's oversight. We need to have oversight of both the police department and the city manager's office. And in the police department, we know that we are behind in some of the policies. They're outdated. They need to be updated. And so at every meeting, we should have a checklist for both those departments to say, okay, right now the way it goes is you go, the Chief, what's going on in the department? Nothing, everything's fine. Okay, well then we go to the next person. That's got to change. We need to have oversight. We need to have a checklist and say, where's the policies? Where, you know, we want to see, and it's not going to happen overnight because there's a lot of things that need to be updated. Continuing education is important. You know, how's everything going in the department? Where are we at with our officers? You know, those kinds of things. Now, we have to be very careful. There's a fine line between oversight and telling department heads how to do their jobs. And that's a critical and crucial line that should not be crossed.
So if you were elected, you would be a swing vote then? It was a 3-2 vote to reduce the size of the police department. I'm assuming, you didn't say this, but I'm assuming from your comments that you would be, it would make it then a 3-2 vote in favor of returning to the previous size. Is that correct? Or the present size?
Well, I think that decision, whether it needs to be cut or increased, needs to be made by a police chief, not by the city commission. We're not in that business to be dictating what the numbers are. According to the research that I've done, 15 is not enough. But I don't think that we should tell the chief how many officers he should have. We have a very robust budget at the beach. We're not, three of the commissioners that voted said specifically it's not about the money, although we would be saving money by cutting some police officers. I agree, it's not about the money. I think that we should leave that decision up to the police chief. If our police chief comes with statistics and numbers and says 15 is too much, then that's what we'll go with. You know, as long as we get someone that's very competent, and I'm sure we'll do that. So we have hired someone to assist us. We have a consultant that's going to assist us with that. So we're going to get somebody who is competent and to make those decisions.
Okay. You mentioned the procedures in the city manager's office. Could you give us your assessment of the city manager? You've worked with him for 8 years. Well,
Max brings a great institutional knowledge. He's a great guy. I've worked with him. I've butted heads with him, and I've worked to implement certain things over the years. I have no problem working with Max. At the same time, I think some of the problems that we're having could have been avoided with continuing education. One of the things that I did as a commissioner, and most commissioners do, you go to these Florida League of Cities and they have different seminars, and those seminars are bring you, not only is it a networking opportunity, but it's also an opportunity to learn about what's going on. When we have, I've said this over and over, whenever we have an issue that comes before the commission, I say, well, let's don't just reinvent the wheel here. Let's find out what other cities are doing. Okay, how are other cities? Well, Max and I, one of the things we butt heads on is that he doesn't believe in continuing education. He's not a member of the city managers. There's an international city managers, 2 organizations. He's not a member of either one of those, and one of the reasons is because it requires them to travel to these conferences and get continuing education credits. I'm a professional engineer. My license is coming up next year. I'm required every 2 years to show that one of the things is laws and ethics as it applies to engineering, and the other is something in my field. I have to show a certain number of credit hours and I think that's important to know what the latest things are. The purchasing policies. I've been talking to Melissa for years about this, and now she's taken it upon herself. She's been continuing her education for all these years and has gotten to the point where she understands that the need for, that was her idea, and I support that 100%. The purchasing policies need to be updated and implemented. It's very important that we have, when we have opportunities to bid out projects, that we get not just the lowest bidder necessarily, but the most competent and lowest bid. So I'm not sure what happens is, I think when you get an organization, you sometimes in any organization you get complacent in the way things go, and I think that these policies are going to hopefully change that if we have a commission that's going to oversee those things.
It's my understanding that Mr. Royal does not have a contract. He's continuing. I mean, there's not a time definite. The commission could vote to terminate her services. Am I correct?
With a supermajority.
That's 4 out of 5?
Correct.
How would you vote?
If it just came out tomorrow, Well, that's a question. I wouldn't make that decision without giving the city manager the opportunity to come up to the modern, not modern world, to bring our procedures and policies up to current standards. I would give him that opportunity, and if he feels if we butt heads on that issue, then I would vote no. If he said yes, I want to help you with this and work with the commission on this, there's no doubt. Max brings such a great amount of information and energy to this commission and to the city. I think if he wants to continue, he should continue as long as he wants, as long as he, just like the chief, is making sure that our policies are up to date. So I wouldn't say yes or no on that without background information to know how to vote.
It appears to me as an outsider, I don't live in the beach, none of us live at the beach, except you of course, that the tone at the commission meetings has gotten rancorous. How would you, if you were back on the commission, what actions would you take to lower the decibel level?
I anticipated that question. I was on the board for 8 years. I disagreed with fellow commissioners and with staff, and we butted heads, and I was passionate about certain issues, but we got things done, and I believe that the people were confident that we were doing the right thing. I think that the way that this police chief situation was handled could have been better. I think that it was obvious to many people. I'm getting phone calls, and obviously I'm on the campaign trail now, and I'm hearing from people that are saying, what's going on down there? Because one of the big issues, I believe, is that it appears that certain members of the commission made their mind up before they came to the meeting. I always would go to a meeting having done my homework and having an idea about how I wanted to vote, but when you sit there, you have to, first of all, be respectful to the other commissioners and listen to what they have to say, listen to what the people have to say, and make the decision at the dais. That is open government, and I support that 100%. That when that happens, I think that the people understand that, and they feel confident. This last meeting, I'm one of the biggest advocates for First Amendment rights. Okay, I am, and I've been quoted as saying that, and I am. But on the other hand, with the litigation case that's pending, when the attorney said no, the commissioner shouldn't have to talk about it, the mayor could have said, we're not taking public comment on this. Next item. And that paper, that article never would have been written. So we needed to, I would concentrate on bringing things back to city business, and there are some very important things that need to be dealt with. Some of these things that keep getting put off, like the evaluation process for the chief and the city manager. Well, we're going to be hiring a chief when we still haven't done the job that the commission is there to do, which is to oversee the chief and the city manager. So at one point, the mayor wanted to hire a consultant at $12,000 to see if the policies had been implemented by the previous chief. No, that's our job. That's the commission's job. And this is a job, and I take it very seriously. It's not something, I know that there are certain commissioners, whether it's the county or the city of St. Augustine or the beach, that come to the meetings and open their book for the first time. I know that happens. I never did that. I took the time, and I took it very seriously. You have to, for every hour that you spend in a meeting, it should take at least an hour, if not 2 hours, outside the meeting, preparing for the meeting. And that was one of my criticisms of Max. Sometimes we wouldn't get the book till Thursday. Well, I'm busy at work. I can't, if I need to make phone calls to do my own homework on an issue, I need a couple more days than that. And that we actually pushed for that, to say that the cutoff date was a week before the meeting. So we had a full week to prepare for these meetings, especially when there's some very important issues. One of the things that he would say is, well, the staff doesn't have their reports in. Well, put the staff reports in later. Let's get the book ahead of time. And so I hope that answers the question.
Okay. You were quoted in Peter Quinter's article about saying that there seems to be a division in the community between the gated and the open residential neighborhoods. Would you expand on what you mean by that?
Well, the way that this police chief situation was handled, to say that we don't need the police officers is easy to say when you live in a gated community that has its own security staff. And that is the perception that I've heard from people that says, they're telling me this. I didn't make this up. This is what I'm hearing from people. They're very concerned. Now, I have many friends in the gated communities all around the city. But that was the appearance, and that is a concern. So, you know, that is also translated to what I said earlier about appearance of making decisions about this very important issue before the meeting.
Okay, you're in a relationship with one of the commissioners. Do you see that as a problem if you were elected?
Absolutely not. As I said, I'm an expert witness in product liability cases. I deal with attorneys, and my brother, who's genius, is certified genius. He's older than I am. I spent all my years arguing with him about different issues. Sometimes we agreed and sometimes we disagreed. The commissioner you're talking about is a very strong-willed person. I know her family, and they are also very strong-willed people. We are not going to agree on things. We're going to, and if we disagree on something, we're going to have a respect for each other, and we're going to bring the issues from a logical standpoint. I'm going to not change anything that I'm doing. I'm actually looking forward to having the sunshine law implemented, because then I don't have to talk about it, and there's no reason to talk about those things if we're both on the commission.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Let me ask about one of the more, what are your thoughts on the community garden deal and the communication with that? What do you see that as, and what would you have done differently, if anything?
Well, that is another issue that I've butted heads with the city manager about. This is not the first time that we've had a situation where the surrounding community of a project were not properly notified. Now, sending out little notices before a very controversial issue comes up like that is not enough. We have staff. We could have knocked on the doors and talked to the people in that area to find out. Now, at the same time, there was plenty of time for those neighbors to have come to the meetings, and they did. Now, I am not leaning one way or the other about the issue itself. I'm more interested in how it was handled. And again, I think it has to do with communication. That was the mistake that was made. And hopefully going forward, I'm sure that's not the last controversial issue that's going to come up in the city.
Probably not.
But so I hope that it's about transparency and it's about communication. And those are very important.
Yes. A friend of mine once said, it's not the problem that's the problem, it's how you handle the problem that's the problem.
There you go.
A quick question on how do you see yourself as compared to your opponent? If I were a resident of the beach and I listened to both you and Rich, what would you say that what do you see as your main differences?
Well, that's easy. I own a house at the beach. My business is on the mainland. Most of my business is outside of the county. I deal with attorneys and also industrial applications in Jacksonville. I don't have a financial stake at the beach other than my home. I believe I supported Rich. I actually called him originally when he was on the Planning and Zoning Board when there was an opportunity, a vacancy, and said, I think you should put your name in the hat, and I voted for him. But since then, every issue that he's brought up, I've disagreed with, and it appears that a part of his motivation has been driven by his business. Now, that's not to say that's bad necessarily, but you're supposed to be representing the taxpayers as best you can across the board. When you're making decisions, he had a closed-door meeting with the developers of the public shopping center without any participation by the public, without any notes being taken, and then he comes out of the meeting and brings this issue up after it had been already denied. So he brought it back up to try to get a vote to sell our land, our conservation land, in a down market for less than we paid for it. That's not right. That's not right. I totally disagree with that. And then was criticized by his wife, saying that we lost 50 jobs. I don't know what the 50 jobs were. I assume that was construction jobs for tearing down all the trees and putting up the Publix. And then there was a rumor that went around, oh, that was Publix needed to expand. Well, I talked to the managers at Publix. That's one of the most successful Publix in the state. They are very proud of that Publix. Now, do they need more room? I don't know. That was only the rumor. That we never even got to that stage. I think that was a mistake. I've disagreed with him on the short-term rental controversy. He was a big part of that.
My next question.
Yeah, the short-term rental policy. He wanted to deny that. Well, something actually good came out of that, but that wasn't I had his wife chase me back when I was the mayor. Chase me back behind the dais to say, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean? I'm trying to be fair here." He owns a bed and breakfast and a hotel, and his decisions have been obvious. We've been working on this tree ordinance for years. We finally got the tree ordinance completed, but he was one of the biggest factors in stalling the tree ordinance because he wanted. He has 300, allegedly has 300 palm trees on his property. Well, the palm tree is our state tree. We have the state tree. He had the state tree removed, and they all agreed by 3 to remove the state tree from our specimen tree and our tree ordinance. So I just think he's self-serving. I think he's a great guy. He's a nice guy, but I don't think he's representing the people.
Could you just, in follow-up in Ron's question, you gave us the first thing where there was a conflict, the land next to the Publix, and that was, your implication was it was benefiting him. How would expanding the Publix have benefited him?
That's a good question. I don't understand that part. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why he was so adamant about it. It was never clear to me. But when his wife came up to me in a small restaurant and is yelling to say, "You cost us jobs," I don't know. I really don't know. But it's disturbing to me. I don't know what his motivation was, and it was never clear.
In addition to the tree ordinance, is there anything where you see that he's voted in a way that would be his interest over the city's, his personal financial interest?
Other than the short-term rental ordinance?
Well, I mentioned the tree ordinance. I didn't. You didn't specify how the short-term rental ordinance would have affected him.
Well, they didn't want there to be short-term rentals in the city.
Mm-hmm.
He has a bed and breakfast and a hotel.
Mm-hmm. Would they be the same type of clientele?
Well, I don't know the details of it, but that's the appearance.
Okay.
One of the things that came up in previous discussions was the vision and the visioning process for the beach. And what do you see that as, or is that process in place, or are you? I think I heard you kind of indicate that you would take this city in that direction.
Well, they did have a workshop. The current commission had a workshop, and they pounded out and they hired a consultant to help with to run the workshop, and I think they came out with some very, very good direction. Well, one of the things. Several of the things we've talked about already, which is the parking issue. That needs to be on the agenda. If not every month, every couple of months, we need to look at that. It's just kind of like the hurricane preparedness. That I was instrumental in bringing our city's policy up to standards, the modern standards for looking at what is our what happens if we have a hurricane? What happens? What is the role of the commission? What is the role of the mayor? How does the public works handle the roads? How do we work with FEMA? Those kind of things, and that's the kind of thing that needs to be updated every year. So the parking needs to be an issue that's on the agenda every few months so that we can say, well, what is the latest? What are we doing? If we had a beach blast off event every other night or every night at the pier, which I mean, that is a potential. People don't understand. All you have to do is drive south, drive to West Palm Beach and see what it's like down there. I mean, if they say we're built out, but we're not actually built out. When that Marriott goes in and the Rump properties are developed, we're going to have a lot more traffic and a lot more needs for the residents to be able to get around. So we have to look at that as a balance. So that's a thing that needs to be looked at every few months. So the parking is an issue, and how to balance the safety issues. You know, again, I'm going to repeating myself in some of the things, so I think we've covered a lot of it already. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but you've mentioned parking several times, and I remember the old restaurant property, and when the county said, no, we're not going to help you pay for it, it died. The project died, and it would seem to me if the city has money, as you indicate they have, that the city would have just said, parking is a priority, we need to go ahead and put some of our reserve towards paying for the project because we need parking. And now you're saying tourism people are telling you you've got a tourism uptick of 12% coming up. I just don't understand why if parking's a problem it hasn't been solved.
Well, it's really not a question on the strategic vision or where is it,
right.
What are those issues and where are they going?
Yeah.
Well, the 22 spaces that are in that spot is not going to solve our parking problem.
Well, it would have certainly helped, I think.
Yeah, but it was a very expensive parking lot, and without the help assistance from the county. Now, again, if the city manager and his staff would have researched. Maybe there was grant money, maybe there was some kind of other way but we didn't get that kind of input. It looked like we were going to be having that full burden ourselves when we're also trying to find money to finish buying the last little piece of the Maratea property. I think we were biting off too much more than we could chew. Yes, we have a robust budget, but I think you have to be fiscally conservative also. That's why I think looking at overall plans for parking and long-term solutions is more important.
So what's the long-term solution for that parking problem now that the visitor people are saying, hey, 12% is your forecasted tourism increase?
Well, I don't know what the exact...
Well, what would be your long-term vision?
Well, we've got to figure out how to move people from city parking lot, from other lots. We've got to figure out, you know, then you go into say, well, how do we pay for the downtown, the trolleys from downtown to come over and transport people? So that's why I'm saying it's got to be an ongoing process. Yeah.
So you haven't heard from Kathy Brown yet to say we have the Sunshine Bus and they'll be glad to run trolleys for you.
Well,
I mean, she does.
Whoever does that, I'm sure the drivers have to be paid and the expenses have to be paid. So absolutely, we look at all the options. That's what I'm saying as an ongoing process.
Okay. You also talked, from what I got out of your conversation just now, about the police department and about the issues. The one thing I didn't hear was part of the plan that the city's come up with where the sheriff's office will help supplement. That's why we can reduce the size to help the sheriff's department with supplement. And I guess the question is that an adequate way to balance out the police department?
Well, the mayor called this thing a blended plan. Mm-hmm. We already have a blended plan. The sheriff's offices already have a presence on the beach. And what hasn't come out is that our police department also assists the sheriff's office in the surrounding communities. We have an officer who shot a suspect down in Crescent Beach, and as they were assisting the sheriff's office. Many times we assist our officers assist the sheriff's officers in investigations, just like they assist us with ours. So we already have the blended plan. As far as the sheriff's officer, I believe that Sheriff Shore was pretty clear in saying they're not going to give us additional security without paying for it. So that, that was one of the things when the mayor first came up with the numbers. But when they were looking at just getting rid of the police department and having the sheriff take over, the numbers he had, I don't know where he got them, but Melissa Burns went over that weekend, spent the weekend crunching the numbers, and came up and said, no, we're not saving $700,000. It's going to cost us $700,000. That's what the numbers that she came up with, or whatever the number was going to cost us. So I think that it should be up to the new chief who has the background to make those decisions on how many officers we have and what interaction we have with the sheriff's office.
And would you also use those resources? That's just one thing. Would you also call on resources of like the Florida League of Cities? You're already a member of that. It would seem to me when you talk about, well, I don't know what the grants are and things like that, wouldn't that be one of the responsibilities of the city management to be finding those things out as well?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it would seem to me they know where the money and the grants are.
Yes, absolutely. Florida League of Cities is a great resource. Yes.
But I kind of get the impression we're not going outside the beach confines to really look for ideas.
I agree. That's actually.
Well, that's what I was getting.
That's absolutely one of my criticisms is that that's what continuing education does for us is opens up those venues. Max hasn't been to now he goes to the monthly meetings that are here in the area, but he hasn't been to the Florida League of Cities conference in years and years.
Wouldn't that be in the job description? Or is there a job description?
That's a good question.
Okay.
That's part of the evaluation process, which I want to implement.
Okay. Okay.
That would be one of the checks on a yearly evaluation.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
I have a couple.
Go ahead.
First, what will it cost you? I mean, you get rid of 10 officers, roughly $50,000 a year, roughly. That's $500,000. Why would it cost you $750,000 to reduce the number of officers you're paying for? That's what the mayor was saying. You reduce the number of officers, that's salaries, and benefits total $750,000. Now, how did she get the opposite number?
Well, we need to look at that. I didn't get that study. I'm not on the commission.
She didn't say what that number.
No, she did. I didn't get the background information on that. I mean, I'd like to see those. That's a very good question that I can't answer, but I will. That's a very good point.
Well, it is public record.
Yeah, it is. It's all. But I saw her analysis, which was about a 3-page analysis, and where she broke it down.
That would be a news story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, find out more about it.
The other question was, you were talking about the commission, and it seems to me that there are two commissioners that really cannot stand one another, and that other people are lining up behind those commissioners. So we have like two split factions there. And you know who I'm talking about, but that's not going to go away with a better city manager or another change in commission. But the hostility is palpable in that room.
Well, I have a theory about that.
It may not be one or the other's fault, but
right.
It's there.
That commissioner and I have been banned from the Civic Association. They changed the bylaws. Why did that happen? Don Terrell, who was a commissioner some years ago, brought up an issue. At the time we were paying for, we were giving money to the Civic Association. They were using our police officers. They were paying for one and getting one for free, although that was denied. I got the fact of the matter is I still have the emails from the police chief at the time, who said yes indeed and gave us the numbers, how much money we were spending, the city was spending on the concert series, having an extra officer there. Don Terrell wanted to know where the money's going, how much money is going to Betty Griffith House. Mr. Samuels, Bob Samuels, stood up, the president of the Civic Association, said, you're not going to see our books, in a very animated way, passionate way, said, we won't take money anymore. Well, and that Don Terrell got hot and said some things he probably shouldn't have. Well, the next thing you know, he has a potential lawsuit that came to him, which wasn't signed. It was never entered. But their friend, who's an attorney, wrote up a slanderous lawsuit against Don Terrell. Okay. I asked for the books. Last year, I was a Civic Association member. I said, I want to know, because it was 2 years ago when I was running. I said, as a Civic Association member, I want to know how much money we're giving to the Betty Griffith House. It's something that we can be proud of. The vice president of the Civic Association, Bill Jones, who has been attacking me, not recently, but was attacking me from that whole time I was running by email, said, you're not going to get those numbers, and they're not available to you. Then they changed the bylaws and decided that they would not renew our membership. I think when you see that kind of attack, now you're saying that they don't like each other, but I'll tell you that the one commissioner has offered olive branches like I have offered olive branches over and over and over again. I've told Andrea on so many different occasions, we have the same mission here. Why are we butting heads? Can't we please just get along, at least agree to disagree? But when you have personal attacks by this guy, Bill Jones, he sent, we could talk about this, or I could tell you the whole story. It's going to take a little while. I mean, but I have no problem telling you the whole story. He sent an attack on Commissioner Pawlowski to the Ethics Commission and to the Elections Commission. It came back, the Election Commission, on the 5 or 6 different counts. Several of them, they said, this is part of her job. This is what she does. One of them was that one of her clients would consider annexing his property into the city. Well, they said, well, this is Bill Jones, vice president of the Civic Association. Their goal is to get rid of her because she's a threat, because she wants to know where the money's going. That's what it's all about. It's about the money.
So that comes to me back to Pete's question of how does this acrimonious situation get better on the commission, or can it get better with you there? I guess is a pretty straightforward question. Do you think?
That's a good question. You know, the acrimony came with Andrea's presence in this community. All 3 of her neighbors, she does not get along with one of her neighbors, and it's unfortunate. And it's, to answer the question, I don't know. I don't know that my presence is going to help that situation, because I don't see a solution. It's unfortunate. I believe me, I rack my brains to figure. I get along with people. I don't have enemies in this world. Well, I do now, but in my personal life, I don't have enemies. I don't make enemies. I like to. I mean, if I disagree with somebody, I love a heated debate about an issue. I don't like someone sending me hate emails that I can't respond to. When I do respond to it, they ignore the facts. I said in an advertisement that I never missed a meeting, and that was they pounced on me, and I was on the front page of the record because I'd actually missed 2 meetings. One of them was a continued meeting. I actually made that meeting, so I missed 1 meeting. Okay, so over the 8 years, I forgot that I'd missed a meeting. It was in my mind that I did not make. But well, I didn't do that on purpose. I mean, I'm not going to say to the record I never missed a meeting, knowing that I missed a meeting. I mean, I'm not going to lie about stuff. There's no need to lie about stuff. It's you know, when I was young, I used to speed all the time. I was always looking for cops. I was nervous. You know, you got and I got a ticket here in St. Augustine, and I got to the point. I just sat back and said, "Why am I speeding?" Once I quit speeding, it was just a relief. To me, I don't speed now. I don't need to. I just you make sure that
we've all had that experience, haven't we?
It's a lesson.
All right. Any more questions? And from us? No.
No. Thank you. Oh, yes. There was a point there at the meeting last time where the mayor and you had a little exchange. Now it looks like you were a little bit attacking him first, and that's why you got angry. You said he was at fault at something, I can't remember now.
Oh, well, the whole premise for that agenda item, which was basically a personal attack on the one commissioner, said, Max said at the meeting, I wrote it down, I quoted it, said that this has come about because a commissioner has gone outside of the commission to talk about items. And that's what I said. Well, Mr. Mayor, that's exactly what you did. That's exactly what you did with this police department thing. You went to the media before the meeting ever happened and made up your mind and tried to sway some. That's not another one of my criticisms of him. And now I'm not going to have an acrimonious relationship with Gary. We've had lunch together, and I'm working on an email to try as an olive branch to try to smooth that over. But I'm going to suggest to him. I'm going to say in this email, I'm going to say, there's two ways to handle this. Going forward, if you don't make these prearranged speeches that are obvious where you've already made up your mind, but when you make your mind up at the meeting, or at least listen to the 2/3 of the people that came to that meeting about the police department wanted to keep our police department. 2/3. 2/3 of the emails. Now they didn't bring that up. I brought that up at the meeting. 2/3 of the people that sent in emails, which were not necessarily the same people. A lot of people didn't make the meeting. They wanted their voices to be heard. Said, keep the police department. That's it. I mean, you just ignore all those people. These aren't the same people that come to every meeting. These are people that were fired up enough to come to. If you notice, those aren't that meeting was filled with people that many of whom don't come to every meeting. That they don't.
Yeah.
And I've got a whole list of the people that supported the police department, names I've never heard of before.
Let me just remind you of something. If you're elected, you come under the Sunshine Law once you're a member-elect.
Oh, I understand that.
So, you know, that's actually now stated in law. It's not just opinion. That once you're elected, before you take office.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
So,
but not as a candidate. Not as a candidate.
not as candidates, but you know, you don't want to create the appearance that you and Snodgrass are having, or the mayor are having, any conversations.
No,
after that.
absolutely. No, I hear what you're saying. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Ed, close us out.
Well, I believe I bring a lot of education and experience to bear on this position. If for some reason I'm not elected, I'm going to still be very active in this community. I care deeply for my community. I come from a family that was active in the community, in the church. I care about this community deeply, and again, as an engineer, I'm looking forward to tackling some of the difficult problems that we face going forward. And you know, I'm looking forward to being there when we see hopefully an economic upturn, and things are going to be could potentially be happening very rapidly, and you're going to need somebody who's able to multitask and do those kinds of things, as I do in my business. So I'm more than competent and more than willing to take on this task and take on the difficult part of it too. I thought long and hard about running for this office because it comes with some negative things that somebody's going to have to, whoever's in that position is going to have to be able to deal with it. And I've dealt with it before, and I can deal with it and going forward. And so I hope that you guys support me, and I really feel like I'm the best candidate.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thanks.